Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning. I'm your host Tom Colohue, and today, as every day, we are going to be talking about wrestling, and there's quite a bit of wrestling naturally to talk about. Our top story will be about AEW wrestlers currently on the radar of the WWE. Several have already been contacted. We will be discussing who they are and what conversations there's already been. We'll be talking about SmackDown going up to 3 hours. We're going to be talking about the Lucha Brothers reported signature getting over the line there. We're going to talk about continual reports of a women's mid-card title, which is difficult to understand when WWE aren't using the mid-card title that they've already got. Carmella, we've got an update on her potential return, as well as a little bit on our current new record for subscriber numbers and the concept incoming of YouTube hype, which I'll be relying on you guys to make happen. We're going to talk Jimmy Uso and his return, Kevin Owens and his WWE contract, as well as a little bit about a name I dropped last week, which now seems set to return to Dynamite. So this is going to be AEW heavy without necessarily being AEW focused. There's still going to be quite a lot of focus on WWE here, but this one in particular will have a wider focus on wrestling in general. It won't just be focused on one or the other. There is a continual interlinking when it comes to WWE and AEW, and there's nothing wrong with that. Wrestlers who haven't done great in WWE get a new opportunity in AEW. Wrestlers who haven't done great in AEW should also get a new opportunity in WWE, and that is what we are going to be seeing over the next few years, and what we've already seen with people like Jade Cargill, for example, and plenty more. Lexis King recently. The chairman. Anyone remember the chairman, Sean Spears? Haven't seen too much of him recently either, but he is involved backstage after making that turn. So we will, of course, be catching up with all of your chat as well. Let's get to our top story to start with. We'll start with Miro, naturally. Miro is the one who's in the storylines at the moment, or in the headlines I should say. Fightful's paywall reporting that Miro has requested his release. I've got a lot more information to share about this, so I'm going to go into this first and foremost. We have 57 people watching, 12 likes. 3 more get us to 15. Let's get that like ball rolling, because the more often we get those thumbs, the more thumbs you see, the more people you see, etc. Keep that ball rolling, guys. Miro has been in contact with the WWE, multiple sources have confirmed, and has every intention of leaving AEW as soon as he can so that he can rejoin the WWE where there is indeed interest. Triple H is confident in assuring him a strong place on the card, particularly at the mid-card championship level, so competing for Intercontinental and United States championships. Miro is said to be eager to face names such as Gunter and Bron Breakker, whom he believes he can have strong wrestling feuds with. And based on that, I would expect him to turn upon the Raw side if he is granted his release. He has requested his release. To my knowledge, there is no current inclination to permit it. He is one of a small group in AEW who haven't been happy for some time. Vocally backstage has not been happy and has made that very clear. He also should be able to keep the name Miro should he leave. As I've said, Tony Khan is not believed to be particularly keen on letting Miro go. There is plenty of different reasons why, not just handing a potential strong competitor to a competitor in the form of WWE, but there's also in general a dislike with the way that Miro has handled himself backstage. This is particular to AEW, and indeed was actually something that was mentioned near the end of his time in WWE. Miro is said to have simply shut down near the end of his time in WWE, but given the storylines he was given, I can't actually blame him. As regards AEW, he's said to have shut down even sooner, and while there is still time left on his contract, he does not seem likely to be there much longer. So that's where we are with Miro. We have plenty more people I'll be touching on, but let's make sure we don't lose too much to the chat. Spiderboss says, do you think it's getting repetitive? Judgment Day versus Rhea and Damian Priest. No, we've really just had it for 2 months now, which is enough to get the whistle wet. Michael says, hi Tom. Welcome, Michael. Then says, do you think WWE will re-sign Rusev or TNA or New Japan sign him? At the moment, he's under contract to AEW. I've shared what I suspect will be the moves if he is released. However, at this point in time, I don't believe it's too likely. KJ says, every time something gets reported, someone else or the initial reporter says something else. Lucha Brothers signed with WWE. Lucha Brothers still in AEW. Yeah, It's a lot of re-reporting, and I'll touch on that later as well. This is, of course, as regards a TV deal for AEW. I've not seen anyone actually confirm the report, just repeat the report. Spider-Boss says, I like how Tony Khan appreciates and treats Mercedes money. Joey says, hey Tom, got any news on the Motor City Machine Gun signing with WWE? I have no news personally, but there's plenty of news out there, as I'm sure you're aware. Always like it, Joe, when you say hi to everyone. Appreciate you for that. Sid says, Sean Spears is in NXT. Yes, he is. Truckopedia says, what's up, folks? Everyone help Tom out. Like, share, and sub. And if you can, please do. 82 people, 24 likes. One more to 25, guys. One more. KJ says, Chairman Spears is in weekly, but he's been in backstage segments, always has a sling, so I assume he's hurt. Indeed, I believe so. Spider-Boss says, fair to say AEW tried with Miro, somehow his AEW run didn't work. Miro only competed for the TNT title. That doesn't mean it didn't work. It isn't a case of if you're in there and you compete for the top championship, it works, and if you don't compete for the top championship, it doesn't. That's not how it works. You see plenty of people in WWE similarly who are not competing for the top belts, look at Sami Zayn for example, and are still key parts of the show. Cecil says, every Friday take my lunch at this time to be with the community and with Tom Colohue. I'm watching that pig, like Jacob acknowledges his tribal chief. Let's go, Cecil. Thank you kindly for joining us. KJ is looking forward to Rusev versus guys like Reed, Braun, Gunter, Sheamus, and also throw Braun Strowman in there. I think that could be fun. And Trekkie talking to Joe. Kervin says, Miro talked to WWE that call, tampering because Miro's still AEW contract. That is certainly something that might well be considered by Tony Khan when it comes to the reasoning of whether or not to let him go. Bliss Gaming says, congratulations on 7,100. Didn't quite get there. Got up to 7,000. We'll be talking on that more later though. Drive-by says, hi Tom, any news on Paul Heyman or Jimmy Uso returning? Nothing on Paul Heyman. We'll be talking Jimmy Uso shortly. Bailey says, of all these signings, where do they put them on the card? There's only so much television time. Many people aren't seeing time as it is. Well, I mean, there is rumours of another hour of SmackDown. Ishii says, hello Tom, hope you're okay. Doing well, thank you Ishii, welcome to the show. Roger says, I'm disappointed that TNA have not replaced their best knockout women's wrestlers who left their knockout division. The division is not that good anymore. There's only so many people they can bring in. Ultimately, they can only take advantage of who's available. Though I would suggest they reach out to Pro Wrestling Eve because there's a lot of talent there worth checking out. Continuing with talk of AEW wrestlers that are of interest to WWE, the WWE is still keen on transposing the entirety of House of Black from AEW to WWE, presentation and all. This would require all involved to be interested. There is believed to be one who is not interested. So just one member of House of Black who is not believed to be interested, but WWE want all of them. They want all of them. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you, sir. Renewing your channel membership for an 8th month. I did see that you were streaming earlier and I hope you had a great show of it. Welcome to the show. Ishii says, do you see any teasers of YS6 on SmackDown tonight? Probably yes. Joey says, do you think WWE would be interested in Saraya when her deal expires? Answered this a few times. I don't believe they would be. Kelly says, hello Tom, hope you're having a great day. Thank you, Kelly, and I hope you are too. Good to see you. Martin on a second channel renewing for a 23rd month. One more month and your 2-year anniversary, sir. 2-year anniversary. Oh, it feels like just yesterday. Michael says, would Miro go back to the Rusev gimmick? I've mentioned that in what I've said there. He should be able to keep the name Miro, and I would expect that to be something of offer. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I do believe he'll be able to keep the Miro name. The Rusev name is believed to not be of high enough value as the Sasha Banks name is, if you get what I say. Eddie says, I see Alistair, Rusev, Starks, Hook, Garcia and Keith Lee will be the next ones. Regal gets to WWE and maybe Samoa Joe. What do you mean Regal gets there? Regal is not the one making these contacts. Spider-Boss says, I remember last time Miro was on AEW TV was Miro defeated Andrade last year. CJ Perry, aka Miro's ex-wife, left AEW before him. Yes, she did. To be fair, she was never officially there. She was only there temporarily. Mind of Gallant says, hello Tom. Do you think the YS6 will be on SmackDown tonight? I do not. Joey says, is it Buddy or Brody King not interested? I've reported what I've reported. Sean says, any info on Daniel Garcia? More on that very shortly. very shortly. Yes, more on that very shortly. Michael says WWE can get Buddy and Malachi, but stay away from Julia. More on that shortly. Spider-Boss says about House of Black, I hope Julia Hart stays on AEW. I'd love to see Julia versus Mercedes. Julia and Mercedes would also love to see that. And speaking of Mercedes Money is naturally another one that continues to be in contact with the WWE, though not in any official capacity. There is not believed to be any discussion of contracts beyond the occasional hint that WWE are still interested. WWE have let it be known that they are enjoying her work and they are keen to have her back as soon as she is happy to consider rejoining, but they have ended the conversation there. The offer on the table the last time that she was a free agent was substantial, but use of the name Mercedes Money instead of Sasha Banks was a sticking point with Nick Khan. Based on people I've spoken to, that is still a sticking point and would still potentially prevent any deal from going through. So that's about Mercedes Money. 99 people watching at the moment, 39 likes, one more gets us to 40. Let's keep that ball rolling, guys. Hector says, I know Tony Khan doesn't want to release Miro, but keeping a disgruntled employee isn't worth it, even if it means, losing him to the competition. That is one school of thought. Typically, as regards wrestling promotions, it's not the prevailing one. Absolutely, Martin. Reach out. I'll let you know if I am free, and we'll see what we can make happen. Giant By says, Roman and Triple H just posted a teaser for Cody and Roman on SmackDown. They filmed something at Georgia Tech for Bad Blood, so watch out. It is part of the intro movie talking about heritage. The Rabbit says, do you have an idea of the Wyatt 6 are leading to with the new QR code? No, I have ideas. I have nothing concrete, and I don't want to share it, knowing that many of you will believe it's concrete, even though it isn't. Martin says, time flies when having fun. Very true. KJ says, you said one of House of Black isn't interested in WWE. Dave said Buddy Matthews recently re-signed of AEW, so I guess it's him. I've reported what I've reported. Zane says, we are happy to see Spitfire win that. I don't know who that is, Zane. I don't regularly watch TNA. Eddie says, Lucha Brothers going to SmackDown. More on that later. Andrew Quinn says, will WWE surprise at Bad Blood with surprises? Maybe the Lucha Brothers, Penta and Rey Fenix and other Bloodline members. More on that later. Marcel says, hi Tom, the tag match tonight is now Tornado Tag. Will be fun. I will never be unhappy at the concept of a Tornado Tag match. I love a Tornado Tag match, and I think they should do them more. One says, another reason TK won't grant Miro his release is probably because he's destroyed AEW online. Not good. We don't know for certain that Tony Khan will not grant that release, just to be clear. Spider-Boss says, looking how WWE treat and book their women's division, it's good that Mercedes Money signed with AEW. AEW treats Mercedes as the face of their women's division. Debatable. Technically, Mariah May, I should say, is the face of the AEW women's division. Super Pony says, I don't know if WWE will want to match whatever Tony is willing to offer KO. More on that later. They won't need to. This guy says, have there been discussions between WWE and Dustin Rhodes? Not to my knowledge, no. Trekker says all WWE shows except for A&E series, Bianca Montez and some SmackTalk shows are leaving Hulu Wednesday. Hopefully the 30-day window will soon be a thing of the past. It will. Internationally. Nationally, not so much. KJ says Darn Mercedes was the one I was most excited about. Naturally. Spider-Ball says, does AEW have interest in signing Bayley? The top stars will always be of interest to every promotion. Roger says, how's your house coming along? Coming along very well, thank you, though I'm sure you can still hear a bit of an echo around here. I'm working on reducing that by essentially filling the office up. The problem is, as I fill the office, it gets harder to break the walls down. And as you guys know, I got to break down the walls. So, little from column A, little from column B. Finley, thank you kindly for joining us, and thank you for keeping that chat rate going. I very much appreciate you for that. Eddie says, any update on partnerships with AAA and Noah to form NXT Japan and Mexico? Partnerships, yes. NXT offshoots, no, not at this point. Hi Declan, how you doing? Michael says the report's true of SmackDown going to 3 hours. More on that later. It will be the first piece of news after I've gotten through everything WWE and AEW. Joey says, do you know if Toni Storm's deal is up next year? I think Triple H would want her back. I don't, and to my knowledge, she's very, very happy in AEW, and AEW have treated her very well. Spider-Boss says, do you know when we could see Mercedes back on AEW TV? Pretty common, pretty regularly. She'll be back pretty soon. She has a limited day contract, so I won't see too much of her. Andrew says, I think Jeff Hardy's face paint was a fantastic tribute to Wyndham. When do you see Cody Rhodes turn heel? I don't. I think he's John Cena-fied. Trekkipedia says, hope you're having a good weekend so far, Tom. Very good so far, very good. I try my best, Xavier. I try my best. Ron says, even the so-called report on AEW's potential new TV deal isn't enough to stop some of the ratings bleeding. I don't think they're bleeding anymore. I really don't. I think they've settled quite nicely. Now, they're not huge, they're not small. And I think people need to remember that they're also not small. This is not bad. Spider-Bell says, do you know if WWE is interested in bringing back Jericho? They're not. Hector says, if Nick Khan's thing is good at financial analysis, I don't know how he sees the name of Sasha Banks as more profitable than Mercedes Money, especially in 2024. This was 2017. It's just a little odd. To be blunt, he knows better than me. If he believes it's more profitable, chances are it's because it is. Trekkipedia says, is SmackDown going to next day on Netflix starting in Jan? It depends where you are in the world. Joey says, do you think SmackDown can survive 3 hours? It feels like the roster has no depth. Yes, there will be people involved. Declan says, that WWE doing too much with Raw as 3 hours and SmackDown going 3 hours in January too much? No. And Eddie says, Triple H wants to sign every free agent possible to SmackDown. Now will be 3 hours in January. No. He's happy with the people he's got. He can make 3 hours work for that. Absolutely can. Worst comes to worst, you know what he'll do? Make the matches longer. Interesting Swerve Strickland of AEW from the WWE has vanished, as the WWE are now aware that he shared details of their initial approach and has been very open about that. However, the wrestling business is very forgiving, and this is likely to be very temporary. Their interest will regain, undoubtedly, as his star power grows. However, as regards Samoa Joe, Triple H remains, the word I've been given, desperate. There is also interest in Daniel Garcia, as you are likely aware, given how many clicks dirt sheets continue to generate based on his name. They have shared different phrasings of the words WWE are interested in Daniel Garcia about 5,000 times, all with they're horny for him. They're extremely, it's constant. I don't know if the hype will survive this, because, you're really setting the guy up to fail. And wrestling media is guilty of that. 103 people watching, 49 likes, one more gets us to 50. Let's keep that ball rolling. Michael says, AEW's been top 5 in the demo and primetime for the last 3 years, according to a Brandon Thurston tweet. There's a lot of value in that. There is indeed. And that is, of course, why a very good TV deal seems likely to be in the offing. Marcel says, do you see Bayley and Naomi winning tonight? If they lose, who do you see going to Raw? If they do lose, personally, I think Naomi will likely go to Raw. They need new people to face off with Liv Morgan, though I do feel Bayley versus Liv Morgan is an option. They were talking about that before the draft as a pretty high up option. Declan says, does WWE need a draft with 2 different networks and streaming services? Yes and no. They want a draft. They don't need a draft. It's worth remembering, internationally, they're on 1 streaming service and no networks. Blue says, hi Tom, going to SmackDown tonight. Very excited to finally see Bayley and Roman in person. Hope you have a great time, mate. I really do. I want to say, Tom, according to Dave Meltzer, he also said the potential new TV deal might cause Rampage to get cancelled. Did he report that, or did he re-report that? Eddie, Nick Aldis is not injured. If the WWE wanted him in ring, he'd be there. I don't know what's going on with my hair. I do apologise. Spider-Ball says, Swerve rejected WWE twice. Swerve is happy in AEW. Yes. The other Mike says, what's the problem with giving us the actual name of the member of House of Black who's not interested? Because I've reported what I've reported and I've reported what I've got. I don't know what else I can tell you. Blue says AEW ratings are still bleeding. Thurston's charts make it clear. Bleeding would be terminal, and they ain't. Ratings going down does not mean ratings bleeding. Just like someone losing a match does not mean someone being buried. It's not the same thing. Joey says, I think people make up these dumb words for clicks. Yeah. Andrew Quinn says, does that mean Netflix will have WWE pay-per-views as well next year? Like Mania, Rumble, or Chamber, or are they going to be shown still on the WWE network? Once again, depends where you live. Michael says, dirt sheets have always tried to set up Mercedes to fail. They have. Proven fact, I've covered it at length. Dad says, big up Tom, do you think Darby Allin was right joining Moxley? I think he was scripted to. Joey says, do you think SmackDown needs a roster shuffle? Not really. They've got more than enough people to make something good there. Declan just says, watch the pick. Re-reported it. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate that. Eddie says, WrestleMania 42 update. Please be Wembley. Very unlikely. Joey says, do you have any news on the NXT CW show? I don't. What news is it in particular that they're debuting? I'm not sure what you're looking for. Declan says, are WWE doing mid-card titles for the women? More on that shortly. Spider-Boss says, I remember the WTF wrestling video about Mercedes money. Wrestling media has been always against Mercedes. Not all of it. I will stand up and say that's not really how I play, but I will say it's pretty extreme at times. Eric says, hey, Tom Colohue, how are you doing? If Bayley does get pinned tonight and goes to Raw, do you see Bayley reuniting with Damage Control, seeing as how they're babyface is now? No. Hector says, if the reports of the Lucha Brothers signing with WWE are true, where would you like to see them and who would you want them to feud with? Lucha Brothers versus A New Day definitely could be a good start. You're asking me to make a guess based on an assumption. KJ says Nick Aldis is hurt. Tore his bicep months ago. Posted an Instagram update last week. Said bicep almost back to 100% functionality but not back to size. Appreciate that, KJ. I was not aware of that. Thank you for clarifying. Joey said, do you think PWN is credible? I keep seeing their names pop up everywhere. We're about to find out because they're the ones reporting Motor City Machine Guns signing and going to NXT. They're the ones reporting that Lucha Brothers are signing and going straight to the main roster. We're literally about to find out. So that'll be telling. Roger says, will you be watching World of Sport Wrestling? Sometimes, yes. Bailey says AEW's problems are less about TV ratings and more about empty house shows and Tony Khan overpaying for talent. I disagree. AEW's main problem is still retention rate. Always has been. Michael says AEW is a perfect fit for Ricochet. I agree. Declan says according to Worked Wrestling, and I stopped reading. Spider-Boss says I think Bailey and Naomi win, so when they face Nia, Tiffany will cash in on Nia. Blue says you can be bleeding and survive. If the bleeding gets too bad, you die. AEW isn't close to death but are bleeding. Again, semantics, but I disagree. Marcel says, do you think the Lucha Brothers will go to NXT on main roster? More on that later. Andrew Quinn says, the UK, Tom, like yourself, because I was only asking if they will show pay-per-views. Yes, they will. Next up. Rumours and reports are that SmackDown will be going up to 3 hours. This was largely read by WrestleVotes. There are no limits on streaming time on Netflix, and that does mean that while SmackDown will be working on Netflix and USA Network, they are permitted to be essentially as long as they would like. The USA Network is apparently requested more wrestling content. The WWE then pitched a third hour of SmackDown. They are taking a trial period of, as WrestleVotes has since reported, around 6 months. So we should expect SmackDown to be 3 hours long for about 6 months. If the USA Network continue to see stronger ratings than they would see with any other product in that period, it will continue. However, USA Network are not committing to anything because they do believe they will be able to find content and at least a competitor who can fill that slot instead. This is another move by WWE to move towards a concept of a 24-hour wrestling section on Netflix, which essentially acts as the WWE Network, but they don't have to pay the hosting costs. The hosting costs are the main reason that the WWE Network is being slowly phased out. The move to Netflix is a move to eliminate the WWE Network entirely and thus remove all of the costs associated. Joey says SRS seems to back up PWN reports. Not sure if that adds much credibility. Does he? Because here's the thing. I've seen PWN say thank you to him plenty of times. I've not seen it the other way around. That said, I wouldn't. I've had him blocked for about 5 years. I'm a villain says, hey Tom, happy Friday. If you were a wrestler, what would your wrestling name be? I've actually covered this before. My wrestling name when I was 12, 13 and playing a lot of No Mercy was Cerberus. Cerberus. Nowadays, of course, it would be Tom Colohue, and I'd probably throw in the name The Influencer just to piss people off. Eddie says, did you see Hunter go after Tony Storm? As I mentioned, Tony Storm is very happy in AEW. Declan says, I think wrestling is more healthier than the 90s. I agree, as are most sports now. The other Mike says, does it seem like TK is only withholding talent just for the simple fact of keeping them from going to the WWE? Like if they were interested in TNA, I don't think he'd care. If that were true, the Lucha Brothers would not be likely to sign with the WWE. So let's talk about that. The Lucha Brothers signature. I reported previously that Tony Khan was happy to allow Rey Fenix to move on once his contract expired. There is enough there that AEW would be able to extend his contract because of absence due to injury, but that is not something that Tony Khan wanted to make happen. I reported this a couple of weeks ago. Tony Khan's primary focus when it comes to anyone in Death Triangle really is to make sure they are in every way respected. He wants to make sure that a bridge is not burnt and that respect is shown to a former founder of the company. The Lucha Bros were some of the first wrestlers to sign up, to show interest, and to help the show become, well, Dynamite become what it eventually would become. WWE interest has naturally been consistent. I haven't personally had this one confirmed yet, but from last I heard, they were still under contract with AEW. If that has now expired, I would indeed expect them to have gone to WWE. WWE interest has been consistent and unavoidable. Blue says if SmackDown goes to 3 hours, that means more time for the NXT call-ups, which would be good for the talent, but I'll have to watch all the shows on DVR. Quite possibly, yes. I certainly won't be doing any watch parties, I'll tell you that. Spinabel says, there is any interest from AEW in signing Io Sky. I don't have information about that. Bailey said, would the influencer be managed by Ed Fries? Depends. I'm a pretty good talker. I don't necessarily think I need a manager. I can hear it too, I'm a villain. No, KJ, don't worry about it. I always appreciate. If I've got wrong information and you can correct me, please correct me. I want to make sure that this is the most well-informed chat in wrestling. A large part of that is recognizing, both you and me, recognizing that I do not know everything. I'm not going to be sitting here trying to say to you, I'm the only person you should listen to. I'm the only one who knows anything. Anyone who disagrees with me is lying. That's not who I am. That's not who I am. That's not who I do. That's not who I do. That's not what I do. If you can correct something, if I've said something wrong, and you have a clear source that you can share which proves that wrong, please do so. Michael says, I like Pac with Mox and Claudio more than the Lucha Brothers. I think the aesthetic was there with the Lucha Brothers, but isn't exactly not belong. Cecil says, I don't get this one for AEW to fail. Do we not remember no alternative to WWE? 2 words, Katie Vick. Ouch. Sid says, are you looking forward to Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson? I've never watched much Nigel McGuinness. I don't know if it'll be good, but I keep getting told it will be. Drive-by says, Tom, do you think the Hardys will end up back in WWE in the Legends contracts? I say they just signed Ken Shamrock to one. If they become available, they will probably be signed to Legends contracts, but they would have to retire first. It essentially, a Legends contract is just the WWE saying, hi, we can give you money in exchange for you letting us use your name and likeness for merch. Span says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. Have you got any info on Mustafa Ali? The last info I had was that the WWE were trying desperately to get him to come back while under contract elsewhere, particularly in their working relationship with TNA. They wanted to make sure they got a little bit of Mustafa Ali popping up in NXT. He is not believed to be interested. Rick says, how soon do you think the Kevin Owens deal gets done? More on that later. Kevin says, can we see WWE announcing 3 hours tonight? No. KJ says, okay, I appreciate it. Don't like telling you otherwise, you know. I'm a big supporter, but thanks for being that way. You are a big supporter, and if you can set me right, please do. You're doing me and this channel a favour. I'm a villain says, Tom, if the Wyatt's next story is with Braun, can we see Braun wearing the OG Black Sheep mask once again? If that's the case, I'd imagine they would not be going to SmackDown. And Sid said the YouTube stream is going perfect. Thank you as always, Sid. Joey says, do you think Kevin Owens will get a new storyline instead of feuding with Waller and Theory every week? Kevin Owens has not had the rub of the green. There was no plan when he moved to SmackDown. They just wanted to get Jey Uso over to Raw, which was awkward in every possible way. So yes, we eventually got Kevin Owens there, but they didn't know what they were doing with him. So we had more feud with Roman, and here we are again. Yeah. Spartan says, thanks for the info, Tom. Hope you had a great day today. Thank you, Spartan. I appreciate you. I had a pretty good few days, I'll tell you that. More on that later. There is talk once again of a women's mid-card title from PWN this time. We hear this exact news story every single month. Hasn't happened yet. Women's tag titles are at current the mid-card title, and they are not being used regularly enough to convince me that there is any need for a mid-card title. The lack of women being built as solo acts is very telling about WWE's intentions here, because there aren't many actual wrestling women who are being treated as solo acts right now. Nia Jax, Bayley, different division. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, different division. Then you go to the tag teams. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, tag team. Damage Control, tag team. Fusion Collective? What is their name? Sonya Deville's faction, tag team. It's not going well if there's going to be individual shots there. The only logical options for first champion will be someone like Sonya Deville, who's the head of a faction, or someone like Dakota Kai for similar reasons, but she's injured. That is at least until Charlotte, Carmella and Alexa return. Small update here. Carmella is back training and is believed to be eager to return to the WWE. Carmella is back training and is believed to be eager to return to the WWE. Ross says, I haven't watched much McGuinness either. I look forward to the match. It's a chance for a big moment for Nigel on a big stage. I'm glad he's healthy enough. I don't think he's back full time. I suspect he will get this match and then probably go back to commentary for a bit. Declan says, have a great weekend. Thank you, Declan. Kelly says, I saw Mustafa doing a promo a few weeks ago. He was pretty good. He definitely seemed happier. He's always been a great promo. He just never had the chance to do anything about it. 117 people watching, 67 likes. 3 more gets us to 70. Nice round number, let's keep it going. Super Pony says, I don't see why Owens should stay if they have no big plans for him. Depends what you mean by big plans. Depends what you mean by that. Roger says, Steph DeLanda has to have neck surgery. He'll be out for 6 to 9 months from TNA. Thank you for sharing that news. Kevin says, I don't see the Bloodline Civil War happening, but I can see Kevin Owens, Randy Cody, Randy Orton, Roman versus Bloodline. I mean, you're forgetting quite a few people there, but alright. Michael says, it wouldn't make a ton of sense for me to have one mid-card title for both shows. I agree. And if we're having 5 women's titles, and they already don't use one, then in reality, we're not using 3. The other Mike says, do you think Ken Shamrock is a Hall of Famer? Yeah. Not first name ballot, but yeah. KJ says, I like Zelina or Naomi as the first mid-card champion. Fair. Even Naomi, though, is being kind of tag teamed up at the moment. So I says, hey all, just regained my access to TNT WWE programming. Production changes are clear and appreciated. Joe Tessitore is a real deal on Raw. He definitely is. And it rhymes. Eric says, even Tom Colohue hates the name of Pure Fusion Collective. Why is that name? Why is that name? Spider-Boss says, Zelina Vega would be a good mid-card champion in WWE. She had good matches with Rhea and Liv. Alicia says, hey Tom, hey everyone. Rikishi posted the other day asking for prayers for Jimmy. Is there anything on that, or is it just Rikishi being Rikishi? More on that later. Kelly says, the one I was talking about, Reggie, was with him and he was talking Reggie up. I remember Reggie. KJ says, WWE had a handful of women's tag teams, but none of them are much of a big deal. Apart from the ones who are definitely competing for the top, being like Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, kinda yeah. Spahn says, what does PFC stand for? Wrong answers only. Pure fucking carnage. I think I've done better there. Dylan says, 2 mid-card women's titles, let alone 1, are not going to work. Triple H can't properly build up his tag title or mid-card stars. Bailey says, is Indy Hartwell injured or is she lost in creative? Bit of both. Niggling injuries. Eric says, my first 2 choices for the women's Intercontinental United States champions are Dakota Kai and Michin. Roger says, Tom Hannifan, aka Tom Phillips, doing a great job as a TNA commentator. And Dylan says, what is a Pure Fusion Collective anyway? I don't know, but it sounds hot. Corey, welcome to the show. Your wish is my command, because I have spoken about both of those teams so far. Actually, I've been speaking about them over the past week, so we did have some updates. Firstly, thank you for an incredibly generous donation once again. You are very much funding the channel at the moment, mate, and I very much appreciate you for that. Please remember to hit like on Corey's donation. It is another way of just sharing our thanks, and I appreciate that. When it comes to the Lucha Brothers, I've not been personally able to confirm it, but I've seen the reports and I can see it happening. I know, Corey, it always makes me smile. Please do keep that ball rolling. Please keep making it, but you don't have to donate every time. I appreciate it. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to donate anything. I just want to be clear on that one. Thank you very kindly for another very generous donation. Gervin says Star Wars or Mass Effect. Never really got into Mass Effect. Played a bit of it. Got lost around the big city. Then my OCD kicked in. I'm not great with open world games. For example, Skyrim. I'll play the intro. Then it's open world. I can do whatever I want. I'm overloaded. I turn it off. A couple of years later, I come back to it. Do the intro. Step out into the... Nope. Can't do it. Cannot do it. Nope. Don't work. Does not work for me. Does not work. One says, I've yet to see any talent that left AEW for WWE return to AEW. I wonder if we will ever see it, Tom. We will eventually, I'm sure. Spider-Boss says, from the creators of Viking Experience, WWE brought Pure Fusion Collective. It should be just Sonya's group. That's a bit of an awkward name. And Spider-Boss says, any update on Cora Jade? Cora is on Backstage on NXT this week. Yep. Back soon. Hassan says, hi there, happy Fruit Day. That says, who do you see winning, Tom Danielson or Nigel McGuinness? Bryan Danielson. Marcel says, do you think Bray will be in the Hall of Fame this year? I'm not sure. It depends on whether the family want to allow that. There was talk about it last year, but the family believed it wasn't the right time. Spartan says, Tom, do you know what happened to Candice LeRae? Creative hiatus. Noob says, do you think Julia is going to win the NXT Women's title from Roxanne Perez at the CW debut? Yeah. Corey says, adrenaline in my soul, booed out of the promotion by sickos. I mean, that is kind of what happened. Blue says, I agree they don't need women's mid-card titles, but Triple H doesn't use the tag titles for the men or women. Fair. Mid-card titles can be used like he uses the men's, which have helped build wrestlers. It is a fair comment. He might just be biased against tag teams. Genuinely fair. Corey just singing along to CM Punk, but a lot of Jack Perry involved. Yeah, Kervin, Witcher 3? No chance. Ain't going anywhere near it. KJ says Bianca, Jade, Candice Indy, Katana Kaden, Chelsea Piper, Damage Control, Isla Alba, Sonya's group. Handful of teams and talent, but not much going for them. I'm a Villain says, I really hope the Lucha Brothers aren't paired with LWO and hopefully with Andrade. Or not. Just not paired with anyone. Just come in and start killing people. One says, assuming Miro gets released, do the two burn a bridge like CM Punk? As we all know, TK will never forgive Punk or welcome him back. Let's never say never. We never expected Triple H and CM Punk to take that picture. Spider-Ball says it was funny when Roxanne said she should have been a Drew McIntyre fan. Yeah, it was a good line. And Corey says, I think Miro's probably burned that bridge. At this point, yeah, pretty much. Before I get to the rest of the news, in which we will be talking Jimmy Uso, Kevin Owens, and someone returning to AEW shortly, I want to talk about the channel and say a massive thank you, because we've reached today a new record, 7,000 subscribers. 7,000 subscribers. 2 weeks ago, we had 6,660. So we have gained about 360 new subscribers in 2 weeks. We have never been so successful as a channel. We are back on for the 1 million by the end of the year. We continue to grow. Over the past 28 days, we've now had 193,000 views. And that means we are closing in on 500,000 for the channel this year so far. We've also gained more than 1,500 new subscribers as well so far this year. So we've gone up from 5,500, pardon me, to now 7,014. To be honest, guys, I'm very happy with that number. Very happy indeed. Long may it continue. There are, as you might expect, shorts that are doing particularly well. You guys know I've been sort of hitting the shorts lately, but my videos in general are succeeding pretty well now compared to how they have been in the past. So, happy Tom. There's also something I do want to point out coming soon. There is a big change coming to YouTube, the introduction of something new called YouTube Hype. Essentially, if you're watching a YouTube, much like you can give it a thumbs up, you can also choose to give the show hype. And that, I believe, is generated based on how much time you spend there. The more you hype it, the more it's advertised to other different areas of YouTube, the more it's proof of engagement as well. So I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for continuing the growth of this channel. I'm very happy with everything that's been going on, and honestly, from where I'm sitting, I'm just very, very, very happy with how this year has been going with YouTube, with Twitch, just in general. It's a good life. It's a very good life. Michael said, do you think you'll ever start to exclusively stream on YouTube? I don't necessarily think so, but if YouTube ever contact me and say, hey, you can't monetize, you're doing 2 shows, unfortunately, YouTube will be the one I stick with. Twitch at the moment is the backup option, the backup platform. I stay on YouTube and Twitch because I don't want to abandon the people who do want to watch on Twitch. But if I have to pick one, it will be YouTube. It will be. So just to be very clear on that. Kevin mentioned the Speed Championship. Fair. And Villain says, a win right there. Spartan says, congratulations. Thank you kindly. Mohammed Rala says, any news on Bliss? Nothing more than I've already reported. KJ says, congrats, Tom. Thank you, mate. Declan says, congrats as well. Thank you. The other Mike says, any word on Ivar? How's his recovery going? Unfortunately, none information I have at this time. AJ says, you smashed it, Tom, and we appreciate you. Thank you very much. And Villain says, sounds like a nice feature. Should be handy in general. Sid says, when will you be going full-time on YouTube? I am nowhere close. With the amount of money that I make from YouTube at the moment, it's about 10% of a living wage. About 10% of a living wage. In order to go full-time, I need at least 1 million video views, not short views, video views per month. Right now, not feasible. I suppose what I need is sponsorship. I need the ability to put like something down here, just advertising something, and see how the sales go. But yeah, I suppose that's the next step. But for now, it's just going to take some time to get there. Jermaine says, hi Tom, just came in. Sorry I missed it. Still at work. So I just wanted to say, love the title this week's episode. You have to be crazy to think they don't want Mercedes back. Whoever thinks that. The title of this week's episode, to be fair, was chosen by vidIQ. I knew roughly what I wanted to say. I decided to give vidIQ a chance and see if it boosted the viewership. It hasn't. So I'll probably go back to doing things my own way going forwards. But I thought I'd give it a shot. You never can tell. Span says, any info on Sami Zayn's new contract? We'll be touching on that in a moment when we touch on Kevin Owens's. Declan says, any word of Seth Rollins coming back? Yep, he's expected back in the next couple of months. Finley says, you deserve it. No one on YouTube giving the info like you do. Thank you, Finley. I appreciate that for free as well, no doubt. Juan says, Brandon Thurston believes AEW's pay-per-views on Max could be beneficial, similar to WWE's pay-per-views on streaming. Agree? Yeah, the more money they get, the better for them. Ross says, interesting that he's supposedly signed a couple of tag teams for WWE, so it's not putting people off. True, a lot of unhappy tag teams, and he's signing more. And Joey says, you should try reaching out to companies and seeing if they can sponsor something. True, I think I should look into that a bit more. It's just a case of having 2 jobs. I don't have a lot of time, especially while I'm doing up the house. But it is something I should definitely be considering. Andrew says, congratulations, Tom. Just wanted to say thank you for your messages, because I have an update on my anxiety issue. Feeling full of positivity again. Also, we'll might be getting the Wolverine game. No, probably not. Probably not. I still need to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but it should be available on Disney soon for me to watch. Glad to hear you're feeling good, mate. Very glad to hear it. Joey says, do you expect Seth to feud with Bronson when he comes back? I'll go back to the main event scene. I expect a Seth versus Bronson Reed match coming soon. Sparabel says, fair to say WWE fumbled when Miro was over with the Rusev Day gimmick, then the Rusev versus Lashley rivalry. What could change for Miro if he returns to WWE now? 2 words, Triple H. Roger says, will you have to pay extra for WWE on Netflix in the UK? I've spoken about this previously. There is a consideration being put forwards that Netflix will have a live tier that you have to pay for, and that will include WWE content. I'm a villain, it's a different situation. Seth is currently under contract, Becky is not. I've shared all the return info I've had. So if you want more information on that, check out WTF Wrestling where all that information is. Jermaine says, Mercedes making fun of WWE now on a money mag about how WWE takes her ideas or people she works with, and now she's talking about keeping her mouth shut so WWE can't steal her idea again. Poking fun, always a good time. Kelly says, I've been sharing your channel a lot. I've seen that, Kelly, and I appreciate it. You definitely deserve the success because you have the most credible info. That's very high praise, and I appreciate you for that. You have definitely been putting the word out, and I'm very grateful for you, for that, and for you. This guy says, with the reports of WWE speaking with 15 current wrestlers about signing a new contract, is there anyone that they have no plans of re-signing and letting their contract run out? There's a couple, yes. Michael says, hope AEW can move Collision as part of the new deal. Saturdays are not good days, especially in the fall during football season. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really understand why they went with Saturdays in the first place. It was never going to work. Spider-Boss says, Liv Morgan can ambush Rhea anytime she wants, but anytime Liv always ends up escaping. Will be more interesting. Rhea and Liv a brawl. Yeah, so like if they wrestle. Word of Wrestling says, hey, welcome mate, good to see you. Let's shout out to Kelly the Wise as always, plugging the channel. Thank you to you, thank you to Kelly. Roger says, what is your match of the year from any company? For me, any Will Ospreay matches. Not gonna lie mate, main event of WrestleMania. I'm a sucker. It got me hyped. I enjoyed it. It was a great night. It was a great show. Good stuff. Good stuff. Dan, posting from your own channel. Evening to you too. Welcome to the show. Kelly says, I have a feeling Netflix was going to start doing the live thing. That means we'll have to subscribe to the live package, and that is not cheap. True, but it'll be a lot less than we used to have to pay to Sky Sports, I'll tell you that. Juan says, Nicki Minaj would be a good fit for Mercedes money. Okay. Cecil says, hype, thumbs up, it doesn't matter. I'll do both while watching the pig. You're on your way, Tom. Twitch and YouTube, we got you. No substitute for passion and integrity. Appreciate that. Hitting 7K was a nice moment for me. It's the momentum's incredible and not something I was expecting. So yeah, very happy, very happy. Shorts, I tell you, they do the work. Little update as regards Jimmy Uso. I saw Rikishi posted, and I can state at this point, Rikishi just continues to be overdramatic. There is not believed to be anything particularly life-threatening happening with Jimmy Uso. Without going into too much detail, both Jimmy and Jay have some concerns over some of their father's recent actions and opinions. I will not be going into any further detail about that. Declan says, another watch the pig. Spartan says, Tom, have you seen that WrestleVotes is going to join Sportskeeda with a subscription type thing where you have to pay to see spoiler news? What are your thoughts? Would you ever consider anything like that? I did briefly work for Sportskeeda in that exact capacity during their biggest growth period. I was very proud of what we did there. Launching their YouTube was something that I was heavily involved in and really getting that up to a point where it is now. WrestleVotes seems to have been looking for this for a while because WrestleVotes used to do this with Lewis Dangor and Give Me Sports. Remember Lewis Dangor? I hope not. KJ says, crazy how WWE's re-signed about 15 different names since last winter. No one hyped that up. Instead, they hype up who leaves like Ricochet, Bobby, and Dijak. Word Wrestling says, any advice for someone wanting to do streams for wrestling? I'd love to try. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm at a level now where we have enough people that I can come in with nothing to talk about, and you guys will tell me exactly what you want to talk about. I can make a full stream last as long as I want because you guys will give me the information I need and the constant back and forth to keep it going. When you're first starting out, that will not be happening. Plan your stream, plan your topics, make sure you have enough to be going on with, and engage, talk to people. Always fun. Hector says, Giovanni Vinci versus Apollo Crews is scheduled for SmackDown tonight. Let's see if the reaction is better than the first match. It was intended to be a bad reaction last time, let's be fair. Scorpio says, any Wyatt news? Nothing at this point. Kelly says, watch the pig. Word of Wrestling says, if it wasn't for community, I'd watch it next day, but have to be up to date. Oh, absolutely. Dylan says, we'd love to see a Tom Colohue and Wrestling Days live stream. That would be so much fun one day. I think we could have fun with that. Declan said, do you think Rikishi is sour for not being involved in the bloodline? I will not be discussing further what I've said there. Blue says, Collision is on Saturday because there's no other day. Only Thursday, which is the day after Dynamite. Back-to-back weekly 2-hour programs would hurt both shows. And yet we have a Friday, Saturday. Scorpio also says, watch the pig. Word of Wrestling says, that's what I like. Just enough people to chat all things wrestling for the times. The biggest dreams are not about as a community or what it's about. Yes, but as you first start out, you won't have that. You won't have it. Alyssa says, when do you see Rhea Ripley take belts back? If not Bad Blood, where? Later. Sid says, did you watch WWE and Simon Dean has a Simon System gimmick? I have no idea who that is. Leon said, if you don't mind me asking, were you the one who reported that Fiend's mask design would change because it scared kids, because I remember reading about that in 2019. No, not the mask design. I did report in 2019, right after SummerSlam, that Bray Wyatt would be moving into the main event, so he was later in events, and the Fiend itself would be seen less. We'd see more of Bray Wyatt rather than the Fiend. This is exactly what happened. There was some drama about that, because Ringside News decided that I was lying. Re-reported with a complete misquote, which Bray Wyatt saw, called them out for, and they attempted to throw me under the bus when they had said something completely wrong. They said they're going to tone the Fiend down. I said the Fiend is going to be less present and go straight into the main event. A couple of months later, he's in the main event of Hell in a Cell. But yes, Leon, it was indeed myself. It says, why do wrestlers keep banging about Butch to Pete Dunne? Don't know. It's just a name. I don't really understand it. I got used to Gunter. Spider-Boss says, Joe Tessitus going on Raw that there is no normal woman interested in Dominic Mysterio is funny, especially considering how Wade Barrett is putting over Dominic. Spider-Boss says, funny that since Jey Uso has been working with Rhea and Priest, Rikishi's been quiet. Seems Jey told his dad to shut up. I did report on that on Monday as well. Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens' WWE contract is expected to expire early 2025 around Royal Rumble time. Sami Zayn's contract is expected to expire around the same time. For both men, WWE remain confident they'll be able to secure his signature over the next couple of months. AEW are naturally interested in both, but they've received no hints of interest and do not believe that either Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn have interest in leaving the WWE. With that in mind, they've not made any sort of pitch or any communication, though there has been communication via friends of Kevin Owens who already work with AEW. There is not believed to be much interest from Kevin Owens in leaving the WWE. For my last bit of news, I name-dropped Julia Hart last week. I don't know how many people heard it. Let me know if you spotted it, because she was also backstage at AEW tapings last week. She's not cleared yet, but she's recovering well and expected to return soon. A program between Julia Hart and Mercedes Money is in the offing. This guy says, do NXT contracts work differently than main roster? Yes, they do. They are completely different contracts for different amounts of dates and income, and also with different things like release clauses. Alyssa says, do you see Rhea Ripley win belt at a Saturday night main event? Do major title change these TV? No. Sid says, will we get to see Drew McIntyre versus Wade Barrett? They're teasing it. Wade Barrett's not a face commentator, though. Interesting. Spawn says, are you watching the Joshua fight? No, I'm not. I'm not really a boxing guy. If it's on, I'll check it out. But if it's pay-per-view, then I ain't paying for it. To be blunt. Only way I can really say. Spider-Boss says, just hear me. Mercedes Money versus Julia Hart at WrestleDream. We've had 303 views. We peaked at 127 viewers. We've had 78 likes, 2 more to 80, and we've had a great time. I am going to head off, call it there, and settle in to start planning WTF wrestling for Sunday. Thank you to everyone for joining us. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.